All right, everybody. Ryan McKenzie here. Welcome to another episode of I Hate Selling Live. I'm excited to have you guys. I'm here with a good friend, old buddy, Garrett McCoy. You guys, if you don't know Garrett, you should. He's a paddleboarding master, personal training expert. This is actually the guy that got me my start in the fitness industry. And he's also the man that trained me when I was in college and I was a really slow, awkward shortstop, wannabe college athlete, and he made me into a somewhat not as awkward and sort of stronger shortstop, wannabe college athlete now. So the one and only Garrett McCoy with true pure strength. Tampa is here with us, and he's the man, guys. He's awesome. We go way back. Was it like 15 years now? Almost?
Yeah, I mean, you tell me when you started. Well, actually, dude, it might even be even closer to 20 years, dude. How old are you getting now, man?
I'm not young anymore. I'm not. It's not
No.
20 years. It's definitely not 20. It's 13 because my wife and I have been married 12 years,
Okay.
and I got married, and like a month later we got engaged. Sorry, we got married. I got the job, and a month or two later we got engaged, and then I got married 6 months after that, 7 months after that. So it's
And
right
as
at
your
13 years.
and as your supervisor at the time, I absolutely loved that because I knew I had you locked in and that you had to sell.
That's right.
And
I gotta make some money, man.
And now he's learned all this stuff. And now he's influencing other people. I mean, what more could you ask for? And to give yourself a little credit, man, you're honestly were like a trainer's dream. You're like my favorite athlete I like to work out with. Somebody who's got the mindset and the competitive spirit and then wants to maximize what they got, right? You came in there, heck, you took a pretty good chance on me. Yeah, I was a pretty good athlete, and I was a sports performance coach. I was only a couple years older than you, really.
Right.
But no, man, I remember you as a good athlete and a hard worker, and I was impressed. Like, you always surprised me with your broad jumps and stuff. It might have been a little slow, but like you'd get some impressive. No, it wasn't explosive, but the result was good. So give yourself some credit.
I didn't quit. I'll give you. Persevere. Didn't quit. I was never the fastest or the best. Before we get into some good stuff, I got two questions I always ask everybody. I don't think I've ever asked you this. One, what's something weird about you that nobody really knows?
Oh man, this is a great question for me. So at my high school, I went to high school in Rockford, Illinois, which is a little bit outside of Chicago, and they pick one senior every year to do a synchronized swimming duet with the captain of the synchronized swimming team. And what better of a ham than this guy? So this was like, back in the day, and Austin Powers was like the thing. So we did a routine to the Austin Powers song, like, yeah. So like, I've got some synchronized swimming skills. So like, that's just what you need to know is that I can get it done.
That's who we're talking to. Okay.
I'll get it done.
Second question. It can't be healthy. So let's preface this. It cannot be a healthy answer. What's your favorite cereal? If you had to pick one cereal to eat for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Did you steal that question from me? Because I asked that in every new intro thing. And, everybody always says Cinnamon Toast Crunch has been the number one answer that I've gotten.
Number one, or Lucky Charms,
Yeah. I am actually a peanut butter Captain Crunch guy. And what's unfortunate is that I passed that along to my kids. And it is in my house, and I might stumble across like a half-eaten bowl. And
late night,
it's more so like it's like a Saturday morning. It's like 8:30, and there's just like this half bowl there, and I'm like, "You're gonna waste that?" And I have to eat it.
That's awesome. All right, so real quick throwback here. I used to train with Garrett. He was getting me ready between my junior and senior year, getting ready for my big senior year at Rollins College. Which I bombed miserably, right? It was great. No, he got me ready. He got me faster. It was awesome working with him. I learned a lot. I grew up at a time at the RDV Sportsplex in Orlando, Florida, where professional athletes were in and out of the building. And some of the top trainers I've ever met, and I still, to this day, have ever known, were training.
Nah, dude, like
a ridiculous team of trainers that were like, I've never seen people train from that I just get to sit there and be like, it took a while for me to be like, okay, how the heck am I supposed to get clients if these guys are training people? Like, why would people want to work with me? Like, that was like in my brain a lot, and like,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's something every young trainer's got to get over. It's like, do I belong? Do I have a seat at the table? Either that, or
right.
they're like overly confident and they think they've earned one, and they just because they got a cert. So, anyways, we can come back to that kind of stuff. But no, I reflect back on that, and like, I've run some very large, successful personal training teams. 30 trainers doing $1.5 million of personal training a year, and like,
Right.
I always had to be careful what I would say because like I wanted to pay the team a compliment, like, guys, this is almost the best team I've ever been on. and like I'm telling you, there's some amazing people. People have been trainers for 25 plus years, like people I've learned from. But that team, I think back on, I pinch myself all the time at how lucky I was to be a part of it. Because the good habits you learn as a trainer, some of the business sense, like how you work on things, the example that Higuera and Meyer were setting for us. And then you're working out with Brian Dawkins and like Hall of Famers and stuff. Like, it was wild.
You're like watching Dwight Howard in his prime get trained. You're just like, oh, okay, look at that. That's like football all-stars and future Hall of Famers. Like, just like, okay, that's how that works. Like like top of the line squash players. Football. It was really, and then just
ice skaters, like weird stuff. Yeah, all over
amazing
the place.
Things. But
I would say my favorite story of that too, as we're talking about weird random things, is I actually took a yoga cert during that time just to teach the athletes yoga. So I had like Kawika Mitchell and Hen and like I'm like Pro Bowl, Super Bowl guys doing bro yoga with me back there, dude. That's like some funny stuff.
That's good stuff, man. It was a good time. I was gonna say, I remember when I first came back to RDV, I trained with you between my senior year, through my senior year a little bit, and then season started. I remember being at my girlfriend's house at the time, now wife, and I got a phone call saying, "Hey, you ever thought of being a trainer? I think you'd be good at this." And it was Garrett McCoy calling me. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm actually interning with Dave Oliver down at First Academy. Like, I would love to come out. So you brought me in. I still don't know if you know this to this day, but you brought me in. We like let's work out, let's chat. So we just did a workout together. And like halfway through the workout, I was like, I got to go to the bathroom. Where's the bathroom? I'm trying to play it cool. I went down and puked my brains out. I was like, came back up and I was like, yeah, I'm good. Let's go. Let's keep going. Like pretending like nothing bothered me. I was like out of work, like end of season baseball shape, right? Like just like not lifting, not sprinting. I'm just like, I hope you didn't notice that. I'm like wiping my mouth. Oh, it was bad. It was bad.
I vaguely remember that. And I kind of remember like, okay, he looks a little green. I'm just impressed if I was working out with you that I was actually pushing you. So that's the way I'm going to remember that story. But that's awesome. Funny. Thank you for letting me know that.
That was awesome. All right, so let's dive into this, man. We've heard a little bit about your story, but like what really got you into like from those days at RDV around that incredible team to where you are now? Like what you're running teams, like, and I'm right there with you. I've had some teams of my own that I've been had the chart, like make sure this goes well, and it's very hard not to look back and say, well, you're not as good as that was, or this is how we used to do it, and nobody wants to hear this is how we used to do it, or when I was when I was back there, this is what we used to do. Like, shut up, this is what we're doing now. So how do you translate from that team to like what you're doing now, and how like things really are inspiring your team? What are you doing?
Yeah, and I mean, the key thing that I think back to that team and the big thing that I got away was the concept of leadership, right? Mm-hmm. I think, our mentors and the Jeffs and the Bryans and whoever else was big influences on us, they saw that I had an ability to influence people and I could do it kind of in a fun way. So at that point, I really thought of, how can I make a mark in the fitness industry? And it's by influencing people to do things the way that I see things, right? And, I think trainers try to do things like the way that everybody else does it, or they saw that on Instagram, so they want to do that because that's cool, or I want to train like that person. And really like your training philosophy should be constantly evolving, because like, dude, we were really good back then, and I know that I was a really good trainer even when I was training you, but however, what I could do with you now, I could be so much more efficient. Right. So I think that's the number one thing, is if you're a personal trainer, you have to think of yourself as a leader. Right. So a leader, you have to set the tone. You have to set the example. You have to kind of walk the walk a little bit, and you have to influence people to what you think is right. And that's kind of, what's led me through my career. I was with Wellbridge, which is a chain of upscale gyms. There's about 20 of them in the country. based out of Colorado. There's one here in Tampa. Really nice facilities, great company. I loved working for them. They gave me, a lot of opportunities to develop that leadership. And, I was even teaching, creating new programs in different markets. And so that's like the other thing is like, I'm not scared to fail. Like I'm not scared to mess up. And, it's all just learning lessons, right? So to me, you have to think of leadership. You have to develop your strengths, what makes you unique. And then you probably heard me talk about blue ocean theory, or heck, that year that we ran into each other at Ursa, I went into like 3 talks and they were talking about blue ocean theory. And if you've never heard that, that's the idea of like, I remember when like CrossFit came open, they really wanted us to get a high intensity training program. I'm like, well, we're not going to be able to do it as good as them. It's not going to be that atmosphere. So I'm going to do a high intensity class in this bougie gym. Why are we trying to compete with them? Why don't we do something a little bit different? So then we tried to merge that into like high intensity and smart recovery. So maybe you work out hard Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you've got recovery or different kind of sessions on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Yeah, and HISSR doesn't have the same impact as HIIT,
Yeah.
High intensity smart HISSR. No.
It doesn't have the same thing, but I think that's the way that I evolved it was high intensity smart recovery.
Right.
And that's basically what I've done and evolved to at Pure. I learned a lot of lessons and launching those programs, even
love it.
Like I said, in different markets. And what's cool is like it did really well in 2 markets. It totally bombed in 2 markets. And one of those markets was even my own team. I couldn't necessarily get behind this, but I got some people moving in different places. So bottom line is you can't be scared to try new things, to fail, and constantly be evolving. You have to do that.
That's
right.
Good.
And that's what led me to Pure.
Speaking of evolving, I remember, so it just hit me that team we were on when I started was mid 2007 into 2007. Right. And so that's before YouTube officially started. Right. Mm-hmm. So like right now, you talk about go to Instagram and follow the Instagram people. Like there was no YouTube. There was no, like, this is aging me a little bit and you a little bit. Right. But like, we started at a time before that happened. So like literally you had to sit there and watch other trainers in the gym with you and learn from them. There was no, like, there were some blogs, there were some videos here and there, but there was no like you had to know where to go to look for it. You had to follow those people's blogs, but like we would sit in the room and just, if we weren't training, we're watching each other train and we're learning things, and we'd have meetings, we'd work out together. Like now it's like, if you're not training, you're videoing yourself for Instagram, or you're watching Instagram, or you're videoing yourself for YouTube, right? There's not as much learning from each other in person. And I think that's something that's neat to see for me is like, you can learn a lot faster now because you can pick up so much stuff, but you can't connect it as deeply because I can't sit there and ask you, Garrett, I saw you doing that paddleboard kettlebell circuit on your Instagram the other day. What were you doing here? How much rest time were you given? What were they like? What was the recovery like? And I don't know all the details and what you were thinking behind it. I just see the pictures and have to extrapolate it all for myself. So there's a plus and a minus there. And so I've seen you evolve through this. Like I remember one day specifically, I show up at RDV and you're out in the parking lot before anybody really gets there on a long skateboard, like a long paddleboard skateboard. And you're paddling through the concrete parking lot. And I was like, what? My wife was with me and I was like, what the heck is this guy doing right now? I was like, Grace, that's my boss.
That's my mentor right there.
I don't know what he's doing. And now you've developed into a business. Like you've developed that into like a model of working out in a way. Like it's not only paddleboard, but talk us about that. Like kettlebells, paddleboard on the water. Like that's amazing to me. It looks really cool.
Well, I mean, like really I look at it anything, right? Whether you're in Massachusetts, Canada, whatever, what resources do you have? What are you into? And what do you like to do? And how can you make it fun? Right. And I really try to make fitness a gateway thing, right? It's got to be fun. So I'm a giant 12 or 13-year-old. It's debatable which one of those years, but I'm more like right in that sweet spot. I'm essentially a giant kid. I actually still have that board. And I went on a little retreat with my current business partner, and she's 10 years older than I am. And I'm like heading down to the pool and she's like, oh my God, you really are just a giant kid. I'm like, don't you love it? So anyways, like fitness has got to be fun, sure. There's intense people, if you talk about sports performance, there needs to be all that kind of stuff. But like, ultimately I want fitness to be fun. And then, you talk about the paddleboarding and the outdoors and that kind of stuff. Like to me, that's part of wellness. That's part of nature. I'm reading this book right now that's about all the health benefits of nature. They came out a few years ago. They were talking about meditation, all this stuff does it for your brain, blah, blah, blah. But this book is doing it like with nature. And what's really cool is when you're out there, my kind of new derogatory term that I call people, besides a NAF. Do you know what a NAF is?
I don't know what a NAF is.
It's a non-athletic person. So anyway, so that's one of my first terms. If you've never heard that,
person,
a NAF. And then my new favorite derogatory term is you're domesticated. And what I mean by that is we're stuck to our screens. We're looking at all this kind of stuff all the time. We're stuck in the fight or flight stuff. If you can go outside, even if you just do the same exercise outside, it has a different effect. When you're out there, it allows you to be more instinctive. Like your senses are up, right? Yeah. You can smell, you can hear, you're looking around. What was that noise? Okay. You're an animal. Your instincts need to become up. You're too domesticated. So, right. So a big part of like doing a Davis Island Beach boot camp, or even the way we're set up here at Pure Strength and Movement, I've got a Zen garden in the back, planted a bunch of palm trees, some cool tropical plants. Like that's a place we do yoga and some of that kind of stuff. But like I train people out there too. I do one-on-one stuff out there. We got some turf where we do athletic stuff, or what we call grit. We're not very far from MacDill Air Force Base. So we got a couple, badass military people. So anyways, going back to the original question of why paddleboarding, why kettlebells, like you mentioned, I've been doing this for frickin' 20 years now almost, right? Yeah. And to me, I keep talking about reinventing myself or evolving. I pick a theme kind of every year and I dive into it. So like 5 or 6 years ago, it was the kettlebell. So I read all of Pavel's books. I did the Strong First certification. I sought out mentors and trainers I really looked up to. There's this guy named Michael Wiley who owns a gym kind of a little bit closer to St. Pete. This dude weighs 150 pounds and he's like twice as strong as me. I just don't even understand it. He's like an ant. I mean, he takes the beast, the 48-pound kettlebell. He's doing snatches with it. He's doing pistol squats. He can do it tied around his ankle and do pull-up. Like it's just insane to me. So the kettlebell really taught me about like tension, right? Yeah. So tension into the ground against your spine, really grooving people's posture to a different level. And I'd done the yoga, I'd done some of that kind of stuff. So how does that mix together? Then the next year I studied gymnastics. I did parallettes and rings, and I followed some GMB programs. Okay, how does that flow into my stuff, right? So I've just always done that as a personal growth thing. And that's part of our programming at Pure Strength and Movement. We've only been open for a few months, and then COVID happened. So it's been a little wild to, take the leap from an awesome corporate job and, go out with a partner and go do your own thing. It's been, crazy times. Right. But what that opportunity did do is it allowed us to kind of program out the next year. So we're going to kind of pick themes in our programming. So like 1 month's backline strength, so it's going to be deadlift, rowing, and pull-ups. So we'll mix and match. We'll do other things in our classes, but we'll have some testing days, and the programming should help you improve in those things. So now we've established that backline strength. Then the next month, maybe we're going to do some animal flow and gymnastic stuff. We're going to apply that strength, make it a little more mobile, and tie your core back to it.
I love what you're saying. One, with the getting outside, getting outdoors, I think just when your atmosphere changes, when your environment changes, your intensity changes, your results change. You can see that in a lot of sports performance gyms. Like we had this upstairs sports performance gym, and they would crank the heat, and it'd be crazy in the summer. Like your environment changes, so your output has to change, right? So same thing, getting outside. When you're barefoot in the sand, the way you interact with your environment changes. It's really that's true. And then just the natural of nature is really incredible to be around.
And like I said, the science behind that is when you're out there and how it turns all your senses on, it allows your frontal lobes, right, your prefrontal cortex and all that stuff that's the executive function and kind of helps manage that fight or flight and all that kind of like I'm locked in stuff. Sure. It chills it out. It shifts that blood flow to different parts, and it activates more of your autonomic nervous system, right?
We should be outside right now on this podcast. This is ridiculous.
I actually was going to go out to the Zen garden, but it's like the surface of the sun out there. It's still shaded, and I got the nice quiet office, so I was going to come. I already paddleboarded and spent my time in nature today, dude. I'm good. I'm good.
Don't get domesticated.
Yeah, don't get domesticated. But it literally turns back. It fires other regions of your brain, makes your autonomic nervous system fire a little bit, which helps you recover, be a little more instinctive, and get into that wonderful mindset of flow, which is like the zone stuff, right?
Sure.
It does all of that stuff, but what's crazy is that frontal lobe is still firing. Prefrontal cortex, it still is, but it's more in like a meditative state. It's more of like a charging state. So literally sometimes if you're just feeling down, you're feeling low energy, dude, you're like a house plant. You need to get outside. You need some sun. You need some fresh air.
Right.
You need to interact. Right.
That's big. That's big. So you guys opened up at Pure Strength. It was 3 months before this whole thing started. Is that right? 4
Yeah,
months?
yeah. We soft opened in November, and that's kind of when I left my previous employer. And then we had our grand
Wow.
opening in January.
Great timing, man.
Yeah, we got great timing. So we had a couple of solid months, and then it was like, wow. So like I said, it was cool. It allowed us to pivot. We looked at like how we want to do like online stuff. You know, what are our strengths? What are our opportunities? How do we do this? How do we portray the message that we want to? Do we try out trainer? And like we tried out a bunch of things, and we were like mildly successful. We kept some people engaged, and that ultimately to me was the best thing about it. We kept people kind of paying their memberships. We kept them moving forward to their results. We're allowed, us to pay our trainers a little bit during a challenging time. And now, like I said, we've got this kind of clear plan. We kind of got to look at everything and take a step back. So although, obviously it was tough on the business, it allowed us to really dive in. We are in our first year of business, and we know the first year of any business is challenging. So also anybody who out there wants to do their new thing, dude, start it small, start as bare bones, as easy as possible. You want as little as overhead as possible. You need to be kind of the guy, but you need to always be thinking about how you can, find you an intern, find you a 21-year-old Ryan McKenzie that you see potential in, that, is going to learn and apply things. Can you bring somebody on? And that's like, if you bring it back full circle, like that's the leadership thing to me. If you're doing that, you're also kind of sharing your gift. Guess what? You do those things, you're passionate, you get results, and you attract things. But guess what? It takes a while to do that. It takes a while to build a reputation. Like, I've got a decent reputation in this market, but I've been more of a businessman for the last 5 years. I'm talking about training and coaching 20 hours a week. I was only training 5 hours a week for the last 3 or 4 years. So I didn't really have a big personal training presence. I had to get back to the dust out my copy of I Hate Selling and see what, I don't want to do that. I need to just start calling these people and invite.
That's good, man. So diving into that, like growing the business side of things, what's been the hardest thing with Pure Strength for you guys? Like obviously first year, obviously COVID. I love that you're taking the opportunity. Most business owners, most gym owners are either saying, okay, how can I get government assistance, all this stuff, and then maybe shut down or maybe move to something else. They're trying to find a way out, or they're trying to find a way just to survive. You guys are like, let's plan for the future. I love that piece.
Yeah.
What's been challenging for you guys, just with or without all this? I know you said you told me earlier you kept all of your trainers on, or most all your trainers on.
I actually acquired 2 kind of during the thing, which was kind of amazing. I've been kind of recruiting them a little bit, but I was able to, once again, share this vision, and that's another just amazing leadership thing that just popped into my head. If you've never heard of the book Culture Code, I would highly encourage you to read Culture Code. The real quick lessons of the book that I remember is, if you want to move or if you want to influence people, number 1, you got to make them feel safe. Okay. Yeah. Number 2, you need to share vulnerability. I'm not the expert. I mean, I might be an expert, but I'm not perfect, right? Sure. I've done this. Or you empathize, essentially, right? You empathize, and then you have to have a shared vision of the future, right? And I think that's really important with a personal training. If you're connecting with a client, or if I'm selling somebody this, this model, I just speak passionately about our model, how I can help people, and I ask them as many questions as possible, just like anything, you find they're super wise. The biggest challenging has just been, getting enough people to invite in. When we get people into our doors, they're very impressed, and it's a unique facility. But, it's where are you getting the data? Are you cold calling? And, referrals and people, and success stories, like anything, to me, are always going to be the best. Somebody's kind of vouched for you a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's where I've got the most success. The most challenging in the COVID is like, how do you, I don't know, I'm not one of those guys that's going to slide into DMs on LinkedIn and Instagram. Like, I don't know, that's not my style. Like, I almost eliminate those people almost right away sometimes. Right. How can I reach out to people, or how can I get an introduction?
Yeah.
That to me is the biggest challenge.
That's big, man. That's big. I love that. I love that you're pushing forward through all of it, and you've even grown through it. I think, and even knowing what the challenging things are right now is fun. Are you guys set up, like, I know a lot of gyms right now have a model where the trainers just train, and it's not their business. It's the gym's business, and the trainers just teach classes or teach whatever clients. How are you guys set up there at Pure Strength? How does that work?
Yeah. Our model, I think, is really cool. Once again, I've been managing personal trainers for 15 years now.
Right.
So I know a little bit about their mindset. And so when I looked at this, like, how can I offer people a competitive wage that they're going to want to be a part of the team? What can I offer them? Right. So obviously we've got a really unique facility. We've got this vision and growth of how, really our marketing plan was to do events before this happened. Like I was going to run this like paddleboarding Olympics thing. Like, I don't know if you ever saw any of my Island Wars stuff, but I ran basically like a trainer field day thing. Right. And I had even done this in a couple different markets. I was going to do like a paddleboarding version of that at my friend's business. And then, we had this other thing. We were personal training. So events were gone. How do you pivot? How do you how do you get in front of people? So to me, when it gets back to, I'm sorry, I lost train of thoughts. What was the question that you asked me right there?
Yeah, just like what's the model you guys have running right now
model,
with your trainers? You're good. This is all good stuff.
I knew I went off on a tangent there. So our model, I wanted to make it appetizing that the trainers would want to be a part of our team. So our trainers are 1099 employees. They're, employees, you can't say, they're 1099, right? So they're technically running their own business. And then we have a small group training schedule that, we offer them certain ones, we get staff, and they make money on those small group training classes on a price per participant model. Right. Nice. So our groups, typically are 8 or less. We don't call it small group training. We call it small group personal training, right? Because that's what makes us different. I've got career trainers who can, hey, if there's a 50-year-old in a bad knee, or there's a 23-year-old that's ready to go in that group, can you still deliver them a good experience? I know that my staff can deliver them that great experience, right? So right now we've lowered that number down to 6, just so we can keep the capacity and spacing and kind of the cleanliness on it. So our trainers technically are supposed to recruit their own business. And then we have a generous split from them where they're actually taking more than 50%. A lot of places are less than that. Our trainers can make 55 to 60% of the personal training, especially if the leads are coming from us. Hey, if you need to go do your own thing, you need to go train somebody at Parker at their house right now, pay your bills, go do your thing. You're running your own business. But you say you can teach these couple classes. And, if you're engaged and you're being a part of what we're building here and I get leads, I'll pass the ball off. So
that's huge, man. I think a lot of people are really scared to let trainers do that because I don't want to lose members. I don't want to lose trainers. I don't want to help a trainer grow a business and then walk out with everybody that they grew with, which you and I have both seen happen. And no matter whether you're a 1099, a W-2, a renting space, I think you've seen it. You and I both seen it happen in every scenario. And the best response I've had to owners and managers that are afraid of that is, if you train them up and they leave you, or if you grow them big and they leave you, like, what if you don't and they stay? What if you don't train them up? What if you don't help them grow and you're just stuck with them forever? Because they're just okay, but then your business is just mediocre. I would much rather take a risk on like what you're doing with saying, let's help these people grow their own business, grow it big, do something awesome. And if they leave, that's a risk we're running. But I'd rather have great people leave us than just crap people stay. And we could keep things growing at a really high rate and be the spot that trainers want to grow to. So, I'll push it to there. Like, you guys are in Tampa right now. Is that right?
Yeah. We're in South Tampa.
Guys. If anybody out there's in South Tampa and you're looking for a really unique, amazing place to train, talk to Garrett McCoy. Look him up on LinkedIn. I know he's active on there, and on Facebook. Check him out because Pure South, at the very least, could walk in there and check out what they're doing. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, go back to the point that you were making right there. I tie that back to the leadership thing. It's kind of like the same thing you should want from your clients. Oh my God, I got them amazing results. They're going to leave me. Yeah. No, that person's a walking business card for you. And if you do your job good enough and you get them that result, they're likely going to stay with you because they like you and they like what you've done for you. And they're going to be your bell cow and you're going to refer people. I would rather have a bunch of Ryan McKenzie's who've gone on and been managers and now doing their own things and flying their wings. Like, it's humbling sometimes when I look at seeing what some of the trainers that have worked for me at one time or another, what they've done now. And like, that's why I do what I need to do.
Pretty cool.
And if you don't really have those intentions in this business and you're thinking about it as like money, like I get to just wear sweatpants for a living, like, yeah, sure. That's cool. You can have a cool lifestyle doing this.
I'm not wearing pants right now, so
but if you really, really want to do this as a career and be in the game as long as we have, you gotta bring others along for the ride, and you've got to, push them and continue to push your boundaries, right?
Yeah, man, that's big. Guys, if you want to reach out to Garrett, do it. Any last words for these guys, Garrett?
I do not, man. Hopefully that kind of inspires a couple, schools of thought. Like I said, on LinkedIn as Garrett McCoy, the business name, you keep calling it Pure Strength. It's Pure Strength and Movement.
Pure Strength and Movement. My bad.
Strength might be king, but you got to be able to move well, right? And so to me, that's a big thing. And, that's actually been one of our biggest obstacles is, what does strength and movement mean? And then you explain it to them, and they're like, oh, well, that's like my person. Like, no. That's not, just come experience it, buddy. Let me show you. You can test drive it for a week. Come on. But on LinkedIn would be a good way to reach out. On Instagram, I'm Pure Strength and Movement. And the company online says Pure South Tampa. But no, I'm really interested to help. If anybody even has, I'm a new trainer. I've been doing it for a while. Any of that kind of stuff, I'm open to answering questions or any of that.
Talk to this man. Yeah. Man, I love it. Garrett, thanks, man. Hey, guys, if you're watching this on Facebook, Instagram, wherever this is shared, or if you're just listening to on the podcast, send me a response so I can get you to Garrett or answer any questions you've got. This guy has taught me a ton, and you guys can learn some stuff from him too. And I hope you got a lot out of this today. Ryan McKenzie with Garrett McCoy. You guys, train smart, live well. See ya.